So, the Barbie movie came out the other week and it has caused some controversy. Everyone seems to be talking about it both inside and outside of the church, and as a Christian, I just wanted to respond, give my thoughts because I did watch it the other week, and especially talk about biblical masculinity because this movie does touch on masculinity. It depicts masculinity in certain ways, comments on it, as well as femininity. But yeah, as a guy who watched it, I just wanted to give my thoughts and talk about it from a biblical perspective. So yeah, that's what this week's video is going to be about. Yo, how's it going? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Hainzer. If you're new here, I am a musician, I follow Jesus, and I make YouTube videos. So make sure you subscribe and hit that like button and comment down below after you've watched this video. As you can see, I am dressed for the occasion. I have my pink shirt on right now. Honestly, I don't wear this shirt enough, so I am glad this video has brought it out. Anyways, as I said, I saw the Barbie movie the other week when it came out, and I want to say this right off the bat, I actually enjoyed it. Yes, as a Christian man, I actually enjoyed it and didn't think it was some demonic, anti-man, extreme feminist movie. I thought it was really well done. Greta Gerwig did a great job. It was satirical, emotional, deep, hilarious, existential, and just all-around genius in my humble opinion. It did a really good job at holding up a mirror to a lot of aspects within society when it comes to gender and that whole discussion. As a guy, I really didn't think that any guys would be triggered by it. Obviously, there are parts that make fun of certain aspects of manhood, but I thought it was all in good fun. For example, you know, the part where all the Kens are serenading the Barbies. I thought that was hilarious, as well as them explaining The Godfather, the movie, and just these stereotypes about guys. Obviously, that's not every guy, but that's the thing. It's a stereotype. It's not necessarily everyone. And so I thought it was lighthearted and fun. It also poked fun at the absurdity of Barbie as well, and the unrealistic standards. And going into the movie, I didn't know much except for the fact that I knew that they were gonna touch on the negative and positive impacts Barbie has had on society as a whole. A few things specifically that I did appreciate about the movie is just the cinematography in general, the way it was filmed, the sets, everything. They really went full out, but also them touching on topics like death, meaning, purpose, the battle of the sexes, which has existed since the fall of mankind. And I also enjoyed seeing the relationship between creator and creation when it came to Barbie's maker and Barbie, and basically her maker telling her that she had free will. And I thought that that was, I don't know, super cool to see, because that's our relationship with God as well. He makes us in his image, but we're not robots and we're not controlled by him. Anyways, I know that this movie isn't Christian, and I think that's a really important thing for us to realize. We can't go into Barbie expecting it to be a Christian movie, you know, because I see a lot of the discourse online and Christians giving their opinions about it, and it's almost as if they expected it to be Christian. So yeah, it wasn't a Christian movie, but of course as a Christian, I'm connecting dots between the biblical narrative and this fictional story that is a comment on society. And yeah, I just think the movie did a great job at describing this sometimes hostile relationship between men and women, and that's a very biblical thing. Since the fall of mankind, you know, men and women have had issues. The battle of the sexes. This is a result of sin. But anyways, I digress. I do want to get into that stuff a bit more later. But yeah, after I watched the movie, I was seeing a lot of girls on TikTok writing their thoughts about the movie on a screen of just their face, and then like pink text with their thoughts and opinions and how much they appreciated it and how much they felt seen and all of that. And I noticed that no guys were really part of this conversation, and I was like, I'm gonna make a video like that, because I feel like the Barbie movie did include us as guys in this conversation, and I wanted to be a part of that conversation. So I ended up making a TikTok, and I'll put it on the screen now. This is basically what I said. I watched the new Barbie movie, and I think it's something every man should watch. I won't ever know what it feels like to experience this world as a woman and all the complexities that come with that, but it still made me emotional. Guys, don't let toxic masculinity stop you from enjoying this film. Honestly, it's one of the best movies I've seen in a while. It's existential yet hilarious, the best word I can think of to describe it is genius. So that's what I wrote, and I put it on TikTok, and it kind of got a few views, but not that many. I used the Billie Eilish audio that is still trending, I think, the What Was I Made For one, and had it on TikTok, put it up on YouTube even as a short, and then a few days later I was like, oh, why not? I'll put it up on Instagram. And let me just tell you guys, the amount of hate I got on that from other guys is insane. I was absolutely berated in the comments. The thing is, if you don't agree, that's great, that's fine. Some were willing to have an actual discussion in the comments, but I just kept getting so many random hate comments that weren't helpful or wanting to engage in a discussion, like low testosterone male, or she's not gonna see this bro, stop simping. What else is there? A lot of gay ones. Yeah, just homophobia and hateful comments, which I was honestly shocked by. But although I was shocked by that, the thing that most shocked me was when I went onto a lot of these guys' profiles, they'd have like Jesus is King in their bio, or like Matthew 5:24, a bit of scripture or whatever, and they're literally on here like absolutely doing what's contrary to the gospel and just spewing hatred. I had to step back and I was like, whoa, this is a lot of toxicity that I'm getting from Christian males. Now, mind you, there were a lot of others who weren't Christian as well, but yeah, there were a lot, and it was concerning. And so that really got me reflecting and thinking about Christianity, not having doubts or anything, but just how so many people can call themselves Christian and have Bible verses in their bio or claim to follow Jesus and revere him as Lord and King, yet they can be void of the Spirit. Void of the Spirit and void of love. It reminds me of that verse, if you could do all these great things and you can know all the tongues of men and all the wisdom and knowledge and have faith that moves mountains, yet if you don't have love, you're just a clanging cymbal. And I was praying about it and praying for these guys because they were cursing me, and I was like, God, why are they doing this? They're so mean and just hateful, and yet they claim to follow you. And God revealed to me that it was an opportunity to bless those who cursed me and pray for those who do me wrong. It's an easy teaching from Jesus to follow if no one's cursing you and no one's doing wrong by you. But once that actually happens, it's a challenge. And so I was like, God, okay, thank you for that challenge and this opportunity to pray for them. And yeah, as I was praying as well, Jesus reminded me that, he knows what it feels like. He was berated by the religious. Sometimes we forget that Jesus was literally crucified by religious folk. And that same religious, hypocritical spirit is alive and well today in people who claim to know God. Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, but yeah, this whole discussion got me thinking about masculinity and biblical masculinity and what it means to be a man in the eyes of Jesus. Because there's a lot of definitions out there, what it means to be a man in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of Hollywood, Instagram, Andrew Tate, all these things. And I think as the church, we really need to have a biblical view of masculinity that is good, beautiful, and true, because there are so many counterfeit things in the world that are pretending to be true. We have to be able to identify, what constructs are from the world and what constructs are from God when it comes to gender. For example, God made women and men differently. And our differences don't diminish our worth or propel our worth higher than the other, if that makes sense. So God made men less emotional most of the time and women more emotional. Obviously, it's not 100% like that all the time, but it's the common theme with the two genders, right? And I'm saying that as a guy who would say that I am in touch with my emotions. And I think that's a masculine thing. But at the same time, women have a certain quality about them that makes them maybe more empathetic at times. And I see that difference between my wife and I, for example. And then there's other differences like, women being more nurturing and men being, physically stronger as well. If you see our biology, we're different. But that isn't a negative thing. As we've seen over the recent years, the last 10 years really, society is kind of trying, and what I mean by society is like the world is trying to push this thing where gender doesn't really exist, right? It's very anti-Bible in definition of gender. So that's the sort of thing we're getting from this progressive side on the left, or whatever term you'd like to use. Now on the right, what we're getting is an overreaction to that, I think, of this hyper masculine to the point of being toxic kind of definition of what a man is. I think it's worth noting as well, I don't think masculinity is toxic, and I don't think that's what the term toxic masculinity means. However, I do think that that word can be a trigger for a lot of people, and people can, misunderstand. Yeah, it's like a trigger word in culture, kind of like a buzz term, which I don't think those kind of things are helpful. But yeah, moving right along, I mean, when we look at the life of Jesus, when we look at his teachings, he calls us as male and female to have the fruits of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, goodness, and self-control. And these are things that encompass the two genders, and obviously we're going to express that in different ways as the two genders, and also as different personalities. But, the Bible doesn't describe masculinity as this non-emotional, powerful, in the sense of just strength and poker face of just get through it, I'm gonna be okay, nothing phases me. That isn't the picture of masculinity we get from Jesus. One of the shortest Bible verses in the Bible is Jesus wept. And I think that in and of itself just shatters any sort of superficial misinterpretation of masculinity. Here's Jesus, who is fully man and fully God, expressing his emotions. There's also other verses like when Jesus is looking over Jerusalem and he says, "Oh Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I wanted to take you under my wings like a mother hen does her chicks." And that's a feminine attribute of Jesus' masculinity. It's honestly such an interesting topic, and I think there are definitely gray areas that we don't acknowledge all the time. For example, the fact that Jesus is God, yet he was a man and came as a male is significant, and yet he is who all followers of Jesus, both male and female, look to become more like. And so, yeah, it is an interesting discussion in the church, and I don't think it's as black and white as some people make it out to be. I mean, I think of that verse in Paul's writings where he's like, there is no Jew or Gentile, male or female, all are in Christ Jesus. And that's obviously pertaining to salvation, and it's not erasing the difference of sex, but making us equal in our right as heirs of the salvation that Jesus came to give us. So yeah, it's different, but at the same time, it's like even God making mankind in his image, male and female, he made both of us in his image, and God doesn't have a gender, right? Even though he chooses to reveal himself in Jesus as a male and use male pronouns in the Bible, he actually isn't fully reflected in humanity without femininity as well. And so, yeah, that's just an interesting thought. And that's a whole other discussion, really. But yeah, Jesus was the only perfect man to have ever existed, and he was compassionate, he was kind, and yet he was assertive and he had authority and knew when to be more stern and when to be more soft in a sense. So yeah, I think as guys, I take so much comfort in the fact that I can look to Jesus for my vision of masculinity rather than all these different definitions in the world, because I don't know how people be doing it. Anyways, just to finish up this video, I think I've been all over the place. At the end of the day, this battle between the sexes, as I said at the beginning of the video, is a result of the fall of mankind. It's due to the fact that sin entered the world, and ever since then we've been picking up the pieces and failing. And we'll continue to do so until Jesus Christ returns. If you look at Genesis in chapter 3 about the fall, to the woman he, God, said, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." So yeah, when Adam and Eve sinned, those were the consequences for Eve. And then Adam, it says, "Because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. And I mean, that in and of itself describes the difference of our gender as men and women. So yeah, I mean, women have gone through a lot throughout history and unfortunately are going to go through stuff at the hands of men who abuse their power until the end of the world. And, you know, praise God that he's coming back to make all things new, and one day we'll live in a world where we don't have to deal with the consequences of sin anymore. The balance will be restored. We'll be living in the truth of who God created us to be as men and women, as a restored humanity at peace with one another. And yeah, I look forward to that day. But in the meantime, we just got to look to Jesus, look to his word, and I think appreciate good films that comment on these things in society in a fun way, like Barbie the movie did. But that's just my opinion, so hope you don't get too mad about it, for those of you who don't agree. Anyways, I hope you took something away from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Civil discussions are welcome in the comments. If not, then I will be deleting it. You know, I actually had to turn off my comments for that reel on Instagram because it was just getting out of hand. But anyways, that's it for this week's video. And yeah, I'll see you in my next one.